Buonasera a tutti. Good evening and welcome to the Italian Radio Hour. Io sono Viviana and I would like to welcome back our regular listeners and also welcome any new listeners. Also, be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at Italian Radio Hour and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on any past video interviews. Vorrei dare il benvenuto ai nostri ascoltatori da tutto il mondo. Grazie per essere con noi anche oggi mentre continuiamo il nostro viaggio per l'Italia e la cultura italiana. We are approaching the holiday season, so I was looking among the different options that are out there for something that is the type of music and a voice and melody and instruments that would really give me that feeling. And I could not think about a better artist that Michela Musolino. She's an internationally recognized Sicilian American singer, and she was also in the program maybe a couple of years ago. So I'm just very excited to have Michela back on the program. But before talking about la Notti Triunfanti with Michela, a little pubblicità. Parli italiano? Do you want to learn, improve, or master your Italian? Istituto Mondo Italiano can help. Located in the heart of Regent Square, Mondo Italiano offers small group classes and one-on-one private tutoring to help you learn Italian in no time. Visit us online at www.istitutomondoitaliano.org. Well, Michela, welcome back to the program. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thanks for having me back, by the way. Thank you. It's nice to be back.
It is great to have you because so many things have happened since we have our first conversation. But I like always to have the guest introduce a little bit about herself. I know that you represent indeed the Italian American folk tradition, but in your own words, who is Michela Musolino?
I'm a singer, and I'm known for singing the folk music and the traditional music of Sicily. And it's become something of, it's been my passion. But what I do is I take these beautiful old songs and I rework them and I create them or I present them in a way that are more recognizable. And sometimes I leave them very traditional, but sometimes I mix them with American musical genres or international music genres, different world music, depending on the project and depending on the show that I'm presenting, depending on the audience. But it's my way of keeping these traditions alive, if you will. I don't think there's something from the past. I think there's something that's very vibrant. It's also a way to showcase the beauty of these traditions, especially showcase the beauty of Sicilian language, because it is such a beautiful part of our patrimony as Italian Americans, as Italians. It's such a part of our heritage, and I think it's important that we hear these sounds and we recognize them and we learn them and we see how they're still vibrant and they're still alive today.
Yes, so let's talk a little bit about your childhood. So you grew up in a kind of a bilingual household.
Yeah.
You were exposed to the dialect or the Italian language.
Yeah, it was actually it was the way for the grown-ups to talk so that we didn't understand. They put codificare tutte le conversazioni loro. It was their way they could talk in secret and we didn't know what they said. So I knew that there were things that I was missing. And so these sounds, these dialects were the first sounds I ever heard. So they were very familiar to me, but I had to grow up and I had to go back and study them to understand what they were, to kind of break into that world. And I started actually not studying dialect. I started by studying Italian. I said, well, if they're going to speak Italian to me, then I'm going to have to learn Italian. And it turns out they weren't speaking Italian at all. They're speaking a totally different language. So it's been quite a journey, but it's been a lot of fun. And what eventually happened is that my family, my cousins in Sicily, my aunts and uncles in Sicily, they were the ones, when I would go back to Sicily as a young woman, they were the ones that would help teach me. So that was a lot of fun. And even my grandma used to dust off her old books from Palermo, and she would teach me Italian and teach me certain things in Palermitana. So it was a lot of fun to grow up with this. It was a lot of fun to have to I don't want to say I fought for it, but it was a lot of fun to really insist that I learn this. It was a lot of fun to explore.
You conquer it, you mastered it.
Yeah.
It's really.
I think I'm still learning. I have a lot to learn. I still have a lot
I'm
to
still working
learn.
on my English. So. But anyone else with great musical talent within your family, or how is this?
You know, my mom used to sing, and she played the piano, and she did it as a means to decompress, you know, so it was kind of her way of escaping. It was beautiful, but I didn't really learn that much from it, except we had just had great music in the house all the time. When I was a grown up and I started studying the folk drumming, I learned, my father told me that, I didn't know this until then. I was all grown up when I found out, but my grandmother used to drum. And when my grandmother immigrated from Sicily, she brought a drum with her, and her mother was known for her drumming and her dancing, her folk dancing in Sicily. So that I started to study this stuff as an adult without even knowing that that was my background. And my dad said, you know, you should study this. You should know this. This should become part of your life because it's your tradition. And then I didn't know what he was talking about. And that's when he explained that, yeah, you know, your grandma played the drum, your great grandma played the drum. And my father's and my grandfather used to play the concertina. But that was all before I came along. So I had to it was in there. The music was there in the family, but I kind of had to re-pick it up. You know, I had to put it again into my daily life.
Yes, and make it and make it also yours. So, if people are approaching the folk music, I mean, folk, what would it be your interpretation or your explanation? What would people associate with folk music?
Folk music is typically music that's passed down through oral tradition. Typically music that's not composed in the sense of one person is responsible for the song and the melody, or written music, music that's evolved through years or through generations. But sometimes folk music does encompass written music, or let's say sometimes a composed song becomes part of popular culture. So it becomes so much a part of the culture that it becomes a song that everybody knows and everybody sings. And then there's the opposite of that too. Sometimes these songs that were passed down, these oral traditions, sometimes they became the basis of a written song, or someone actually decided, you know what, I'm going to take credit for this song. I'm going to write this song down. And then it becomes part of popular culture. So that's how I would identify folk music. So there is that idea that it's music that's passed down through history, but it's wide open. There's a lot of different branches in that.
Was there a specific maybe story or a song that you became very fond of, maybe in your childhood or growing up, something that really resonated with you?
From my childhood, I would have to say it was something that happened a little bit later. Since we're here talking about Christmas, I always loved Christmas music. And in our Christmas songbooks my mother always had a lot of sheet music around the house. There was always a song listed as a Sicilian song. It was called O Sanctissima. But it was written in Latin. The text was in Latin. And when I started as an adult, when I started to sing this music, my mom used to say to me, you know, you should sing that song, O Sanctissima. And you should sing it because it's a Sicilian song. I said, Mom, I don't think so. I said, I know it's in the Christmas books. I know it's been there since I was a kid. I said, but, you know, it's in Latin. It's a church song. It's a motet. I said, I don't think it's a Sicilian song, you know. And she would say, no, it's Sicilian because your grandma used to sing it. And I said, I don't think that's why it's a Sicilian song. I don't think that's reason enough, just because grandma sang it. And she, well, your grandmother was from Palermo. So I'm like, I don't. But what happened is this song is always identified as a Sicilian folk song, that the song originated before it was a church song. They say it was a song of the Sicilian mariners, and I don't know why. I'm trying to find out why. I'm trying to research why. I often talk to the Sicilian ethnomusicologist Sergio Bonanzinga, and I ask him, I'm like, where does it come from? He says it's probably just somebody is saying that. It's probably not, you know, documented. So I just bought a book. I found a hymnal, a Catholic hymnal from 1920. I just bought it at an antique shop. And they list O Sanctissima as the Sicilian Mariners hymn. So I recorded, when I did my Christmas album, I recorded because I used to sing this in my Christmas shows. And so whenever I have a Christmas show, I insert it. And what's interesting is the last couple shows I had, which were not Christmas shows, I just had them earlier this month in November. But I inserted this song anyway, because I said, here's a song, and I explained the origin of it. And a lot of people in the audience have been singing it with me. So this is a familiar song to a lot of people. So that there's this Sicilian connection is very interesting. And I guess this is a happy memory also, because I guess a lot of people sang this song in church. So it's beautiful to see. Yeah, it's beautiful to see how this music keeps coming back into the ether.
So let's have a clip of you singing it. Let's just hear a few seconds of it. And so maybe some people in our audience will, once they listen to this interview, might be singing along. Okay, so there was a part of it also that's only familiar to me, and now you gave me some homework, because I'm not going to let this go. I'm going to join you in the research.
That would be fantastic. Well, there's something to know about that song, which is beautiful, how the song moved. It's credited with being, it's identified as being a Sicilian song, and then somehow it became a church song that somebody wrote the text in Latin. And somehow it made its way as a church song. It's made its way to Germany, and a version was written in German, and it became a hymn with the German immigrants that came to the U.S. In the U.S., it kind of became part. Well, actually, in the U.S., it became part of the repertoire for different army bands. And then in the Civil War, there were some in the Union Army bands. There were freed slaves in there, so they learned the song, and then that song evolved into "We Shall Overcome." It's the melodic bass for "We Shall Overcome." So if it sounded familiar to you, that's what you might be hearing as well.
I was actually thinking, it was like sometimes you hear sounds or you taste something and you have this visual of where you were, and I actually saw myself in church in Italy. So I as I said, the first explanation that it became a church hymn, that's most likely that melody that we heard sounds familiar to me more than the "We Shall Overcome." That is like a later part of my life experience. So
let me know what you remember, because I'm fascinated by the history of the song. So I always want to know. I always want to know more and more about these songs, because there's never an easy answer. There's never a simple answer. There's always a lot of history behind the song.
So anyway, you have also been performing live in so many different places, and obviously performing in a castle, the Castello Normanno Svevo, must have been pretty special. Or even Monta, the event in memoria di Pino Veneziano in the archaeological part. Tell us a little bit. Take us back to those magical moments.
Well, they're all connected, actually. It started with the archaeological park. What happened was, I was in Sicily one summer with my daughter. She was very little, and I had planned to spend the whole summer there. And I had an appointment with an ethnomusicologist, and we were at the beach, and we were at Secca Grande in Sicily. It's the Lido of Ribera, which is my family's town. And this ethnomusicologist was going to be there because this is the beach where everybody comes in the summertime. Everybody goes there. So his sister had a house there, so he was going to be there all summer. I was going to be there with my aunt and my uncle. And well, it turns out that I just couldn't stay. My uncle was very protective. He meant well, but he did, he was like, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'm like, see, I got a kid here. I'm grown up. Like, what are you talking about? So I said, you know what? I said, let's just go. Let's just figure out where we're going to go. And we literally took a bus. I thought we rode that bus forever, but I went to Selinunte because a friend of mine was giving a concert there. Alfio Antico is going to give a concert. I said, well, let's go. We'll go there. We'll find a place to say it's at the beach. We'll go see some music, you know, and we'll stay there for a couple weeks or whatever at the beach. And the concert, when I went to the concert, they said it's going to be in the Parco Archeologico tonight. So I went, I said, I'm here for the concert. They said, oh no, stasera non è concerto, è spettacolo. And I was like, what do you mean? It's not a concert, it's a show. Well, it was called L'Evento in Memoria di Pino Veneziano. And it was an entire festival dedicated to folk music and dedicated to the memory of this Sicilian cantautore, this singer-songwriter named Pino Veneziano. And we sat there under the stars and we in front of the temples and we heard all this amazing music. And at the end of the show, I went up to the organization, the organization, the Pino Veneziano Association, and I said, listen, I said, I'm from America. I sing Sicilian folk music. I said, Alfio Antico is on my CD. I had one of my CDs that he was a guest artist on my first CD. I said, look, I said, I sang with Alfio. I said, how can I sing this music? I love this music that Pino Veneziano wrote. How can I sing it? And they said, just sing it. Go sing it, you know, sing it in your shows. I'm like, okay. So as soon as I went back to New York, I started singing this music. And eventually, like about 2 years later, the organization invited me back to sing at the festival. So I was singing, then I was going back every year to sing in these temples. And I met so many wonderful musicians. But from that time, when I went to that concert, I met dear friends of mine that not only were part of the association, but they live in Selinunte. In fact, I was just on the phone with them yesterday, and they were talking that this year is going to be the 20th anniversary of this festival. So it was through them, actually, that a few years later, we were going to be there in November, and they said, why don't you sing? We'll do a show at the Castello Normanno. And I was like, in a castle? What? And they said, well, yeah, you sang in the temples. Why not sing in a castle? And it was beautiful. It was completely, it was a surprise because it was not something that we planned far in advance. They just said, why don't you come? And I didn't know what to expect. It's a medieval castle. It's fantastic. And it was very cold. You know, everybody thinks Italy's so sunny and warm, but they don't know, right? In November, it gets cold. And, you know, there's no heat in the castle. So they had, you know, little fires going. But it was beautiful. And I had my friend from Cremona was there, Fabio Turchetti. He played with us. And of course, the great Michele Piccione played with us that night from Palermo. It was a beautiful, beautiful memory. And something that was really special that night, Pino Veneziano wrote a song called A Santo, Tu Santo. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful, beautiful song in homage to his friend Santo. Mm-hmm. And Santo is, in the song, he's someone that's very loving, a blind man. He's a blind man, and he's a good man. And he tells people, even though I'm blind, I can show you the way, because he tells us the way is love. Like we need to have more love in the world. And that became kind of a song that I sang very often in Selinunte. I sang it in all my shows. I love that song. And that night in the Castello Normanno, I had the honor of actually singing to the real Santo, to the man that song was dedicated to. So that was a real treat for me. That was it was something that a beautiful memory that I have inside.
Very special. Now, you mentioned a couple of names, and I'm going to let's spend a couple of minutes to talk about your collaboration with Fabio Turchetti. Mm-hmm. So with the project Metalli Sonanti.
Yes.
So what is this all about?
Well, Fabio and I have actually been performing and collaborating together for about 10 years. And Metalli Sonanti was the outgrowth of it. We had a trio. And then one of our musicians, Michael Delia, he couldn't spend any more time on the music. He had some personal things he had to take care of. So I said, well, now what do we do? We had this beautiful trio. And Fabio said, hey, look, we'll just go forward as a duo. Let's change the name. Let's do other things. So we called it Metalli Sonanti because we have all these beautiful sonorous metals in our instruments. And we started using the duo as the basis of so many projects. And what we do is, as we travel, we invite other musicians to perform with us. We do that in Italy. We do that here in the US. And Fabio is a fantastic composer. So he's written some beautiful songs. He's written some beautiful songs that I've recorded. He wrote a song that one of my favorites, and it's a big audience favorite, called Naviganno, which means navigating. And it's actually Naviganno cu vento u sud. Navigating by the South Wind. And it's our wish for our audience that they be happy on their journey through life. He's written some, together we've collaborated, and he's composed music for me on some theatrical piece. We do some musical theater. So we've done a project about the marionette theater from Palermo, the Pupi, the marionetti, and the story of Orlando. And it's called Sei Pupi a Gerusalemme. And it's actually these 6 characters from the puppet theater all take a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, and it's their story. And I sing their story as I narrate it, but I also sing their story. We've recorded a few CDs. We did a project actually in English, but in honor of the work of Lawrence Ferlinghetti, where I sing the poetry of Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and we had fantastic jazz musicians from Cremona working with Gianni Satti and Fabrizio Trulli. And we recorded that. We were supposed to tour that. I was just talking about this actually too, like today. We were supposed to tour that. We recorded in the summer of 2019 in Cremona. And we were supposed to tour that a few months later, but something else happened in 2020. So we haven't gotten to tour that yet. But Fabio was just here, actually. We were performing in September. We were in Indianapolis and Bloomington, in Indianapolis and Bloomington. Then we were in North Carolina. And we're going to be starting actually a project, working on a project of the music of Monteverdi. In addition to other Sicilian projects, we're also doing a project about, I don't know if I'm so excited about this. We're working on a project of telling the story of Proserpina, Persephone. So we have a lot of work that I love the music. I love everything he writes. So I said, just write me a beautiful song and I'll sing it. So what's going to be fun is in the project for Proserpina, we're going to have some music actually that I wrote, which is going to be fun. So
interesting.
We're going to combine it.
So I'm sorry if I'm jumping left and right, but when I'm on your side, I just love to look at pictures, your videos, and so forth. And we are now looking at a tablecloth, but there is a holiday, there is a tradition.
Yes.
That was a couple of weeks ago. So tell us a little bit about what the holiday represents to you on November the 2nd.
November 2nd, the Festa di Tutti Morti. It's just something that my parents made sure we celebrate, even here in the US. And it was a holiday that always touched me very deeply. Even as a little girl, I loved it because it was not anything like Halloween. Halloween is always that spooky thing, and the spirits. It's very macabre, but this was not like that. There were spirits here, but it was very friendly and very loving. And this idea that our departed loved ones are still with us and they still care about us and we still communicate with them. And I'm sure you know this, right? That's a tradition that, especially in Southern Italy, they may not be here physically. We can't hold them and hold their hands, but they still communicate with us somehow. We still feel their presence. And so this holiday we always celebrated when I was a little girl, and my dad made sure that we always had the ossa dei morti, the cookies, the bones of the dead, because he used to know just the bakeries in New York that would sell them, that still made them. He knew about the pupi di zucchero, the sugar paste statues. But when I was an adult, I was in Sicily, and I was actually visiting the catacombs with a friend of mine, with Michele Piccione, the great musician. And he started telling me about this idea that part of the tradition would be that not just visiting the cemetery or the crypt, but people would actually make a picnic in the presence of their departed loved ones. So they would go to the crypt and make a picnic. They would go to the cemetery and make a picnic on this day. So there was this idea of a party between the living and the recently departed. And I thought it was beautiful. I thought, what would that look like? I said, I bet it would be fantastic. I bet you'd have lots of wine and lots of bread, and there'd be guitar and drum and music, and you'd always be in good company. You'd never feel alone. That they were always there with you. So I wrote a song about it. And I was one of the first projects I worked on when I moved to Memphis 2 years ago. It was one of the first things I recorded, and it was a lot of fun. I was really happy to do this because we don't really have songs that celebrate this. There are some songs in the Corpus Favara that talk about, death and this and that, but nothing really for this day in particular. And I said, we need a song. And the nice thing is the way this song is, especially when I do it live, it's very participatory. The audiences can really become part of it. And I love that. That's what makes this music so much fun, is that, and that's the tradition of folk music. Yes, because everybody used to sing once upon a time, right? It wasn't just for people on stage. It was part of our everyday life. So I'm very happy when I can present a song in a way that the audience can become part of it. And that's what they can do with this. And it's just been a lot of fun, this song. I love singing it. I especially love to be part of this holiday now. I consider it a really important feast day. I really do. And it's also kind of like a way to, I think like Halloween's gotten like out of control.
It's a little more of a, it's kind of like commercial type of.
So I just feel this is the more spiritual aspect, the more loving aspect of it, the more humane, like there's more humanity in this part of the tradition.
Yes.
So.
And this tablecloth seems to me, but I'm not an expert, handmade.
Yeah, that is from Sicily. That tablecloth is about 40 years old. It's from Sicily. I brought it back one time when I was a young woman, and when my mom died, I was wondering, so I'm taking this with me. I said, and you know what? I was just interviewed on a local TV station here in Memphis. And they said, what can we put in the pic? What can we put in this scene that'll be traditional? So I brought the tablecloth, and they were like, it's 40 years old. Oh my gosh. I'm like, we use this every day. Don't worry about it. It's meant to be used. It's not going to go in a museum, But I have a couple of these, and I love them. And I know you must have them too. We go to the mercato. Remember, we used to go to the mercato and you buy all these beautiful crocheted things.
Esatto. And so our experience with November the 2nd was actually in still some sort of celebration that we were looking for, even though we didn't have picnics, but it was we would always go to the cemetery to visit my grandparents, and then once we would go back, there would be little treats that supposedly they had left for us. So it was always a sweet memory, always something that it was solemn. Once you say your prayers, once you go to the grave, you kind of reconnect with your loved ones who are no longer here, and then as a kid you also remember the sweet reward. So it's really nice to see how in other regions or just in other families like yourself, you really taking it almost to the next level and still make it a personable holiday, not indeed the commercial. That is picking up in Italy, Halloween as well, more as
is that crazy?
And the difference, at least in Rome, I cannot speak for the rest of Italy, is that the dolcetto scherzetto, the trick or treat, is not really done from house to house, but in Rome there are certain streets, and you're actually walking into the businesses, and they'll have some, but not everywhere. It's just something that I've noticed, at least in the shopping area close to my house there. And and my nephew, obviously, and additional excuse to dress up like Carnevale. But
they get Carnevale. We don't have that. They get that. We don't have that.
So let's get into your latest production. Again, this is an amazing, when I put it in the car, and I was just like, I felt your presence, I felt company. I was so taken into the music. Tell us a little bit about the birth of La Notti Triunfanti.
It's a project that I've wanted to do for many, many years because I love Christmas. I love singing Christmas songs. My Christmas shows in December are always my favorite. I mean, I enjoy all my shows, but there's something about the Christmas shows. It's almost like, it's like this euphoric state, I guess, in December. And I'd always wanted to record a Christmas album, but it's, a Christmas album is kind of hard because you have to do it so far in advance. So I could never kind of get it prepared. So when I moved down to Memphis, I had been invited to sing online by the Queens Public Library. So they said, yeah, you can record this, you can transmit the show live from Memphis, no problem. So I got a bunch of great Memphis musicians together. We rehearsed my repertoire. And afterwards, we're like, well, the musicians are already rehearsed. Why don't we just go into the studio now and we did some more rehearsals right after Christmas, and then beginning of January, we were in the studio recording, and we finished recording probably around April, and then we spent all summer mixing it. And so I had Christmas on my brain for many months, and then I released it last year. But the reason I released this was because every year I can bring it out and it's still brand new. Christmas songs never age. And I really wanted to have these documented. And what's interesting is the way with these musicians, how I recorded this music, how we present the music is, it's kind of like the Italian South meets the American South. So we combined traditions. So you'll hear some songs may sound very traditional, but some songs you're going to say, wait a minute, there's a little bit of twang in there. That sounds like a little bit of like Beale Street Blues. A second, wait, this sounds like a little country. This sounds like a little rockabilly. And we tried to do that to give it as much, make things unique and put a stamp on it that's a little bit different. It's a mixture of songs. Mostly are Sicilian songs, but there's songs from other parts of Southern Italy as well. And what's beautiful, and I couldn't have done this if I wanted to. It's not like I decided to pick a theme or anything. It's just that all the songs from these traditions all focus on the night that Christ was born. It's all the aspects of Christmas from all that story of Christmas from different points of view, which is really cool. Like some are from Mary's point of view, some are from the shepherd's point of view, some are from the three kings' point of view. So I was really delighted.
The three kings from the Orient. You can.
Li tri re di Lorienti. Li tri re di Lorienti. Yeah, I love that song. I love it. I just, it just makes me happy to even talk about it. And then I'm so happy that it's that people are taking this into their home and it's becoming part of their tradition now, because that's what this is all about. That's what this music is about. It's about, sharing it and keeping it vibrant, keeping it part of everyday life and part of tradition. So I don't want it to be on a shelf, gathering dust. I want people to listen to it and enjoy it. And it's got a booklet. So it has the lyrics to the songs, and it also has the stories to the songs. So it's the book. I like that because I'm kind of a geek like that. I love to read liner notes. I love to read booklets. So I try to put them with my albums if I can.
And yes, because it creates the full experience and then everything. So I'm going to try to see if I can go and steal again, a few seconds of Canzone di Natale. While I'll do that, do you want to tell us a little bit about this one piece, which is also the opening piece of the CD?
Canzone di Natale is a sweet song about Mary, when the shepherds come and Mary gives them her benediction. And it's kind of like a lullaby, which is really a big tradition in Sicily and Southern Italy, where the Christmas song is sung like a lullaby, or the Christmas song is a lullaby to the babe. In fact, on the album, at the very end of the song, I start singing a Sicilian lullaby. But the song, if you listen to the rhythm of the song, is somewhat like a lullaby.
And let's see where are we at with the song in this particular moment. Okay, I could listen to all of it for forever.
Thank you.
So, do you have any events coming up?
I actually, right now, my schedule is very clear. I was actually just on the phone today with a musician, a wonderful musician, an Italian musician in Nashville. We were both lamenting, like, while we were sitting on the computer trying to organize shows and book shows. Because I know I'll be in California in April and May next year, and again in September and October. And then I'll be in, I think, like Delaware in a year from now. But right now I don't have anything set on my schedule, so everything's kind of just being set up right now. And it's this is a stressful time for musicians, but it's also the time of year when we do the most work, as far as the most administrative work, and that's kind of what I have to face now too, which is, this is the part of the job that we don't like, that you have to sit in front of the computer and make phone calls and organize concerts and organize tour schedules. And I would rather be on the road singing, but I also had to recover. I just got back from a tour and I needed to rest from that too. So I don't have anything on my schedule right now that I can say, yeah, come to this show. But I tell people, come to my website and always check, because every day I add shows and you never know when that's going to change. And that's my my EPK for the album. There you go.
Yes, so also you can enjoy the holidays, which is a great thing. It's to be able to spend it with family. So do you indicate how old is, you indicated a daughter, right? How old is she?
My daughter is 25. She's all grown up.
25.
25,
so it was a little girl. Okay. And
Yeah.
so do you speak Italian to her? Have you guys been
I
able
do. I
learn the
actually,
language?
when she was a baby, that was my intention, was that I didn't want her to have to do what I did, wait till she was a grown up to have to learn Italian, or wait till she was a teenager. So she, when she was a baby, I had her speaking Italian, and my former husband, my ex-husband, actually was from Italy. And when he came over, he lost, remember how they used to do this to the kids? They would lose a year of school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so he was afraid that would happen to her. And we had friends come over the house one night and they started laughing. They said, your daughter understands us better when we speak Italian than when we speak to her in English. And he said, that's it. We're only going to speak English. So he didn't want that to happen. But I kept up with it. And, the first time I brought her to Sicily, she was about 6 years old. And actually, she was there when I was pregnant. I used to tease. I said, I was there when I was like,
she was already there. Yes.
Yeah, I said, you were there. I said, but I don't remember. So the first time I brought her to Sicily, she was 6 years old. And after about being there like a week, she was just speaking Italian, and it was great. I mean, she just picked it up again and came right out. And then through the years, she's had different opportunities to be immersed in it and to study it. And now, what's interesting, when my musicians come from Italy, all of a sudden I'll look over and she's talking to them in Italian to have a conversation. And she'll say, come on, can we do Italian tonight? So we'll pick out a book and we'll start doing some literature or something in Italian. Yeah. So I love that I can share that with her. So yeah, I wanted her to have, I said, even if you never use it, you should always have a language. And I encourage my audiences, if you are interested in the language, learn it. Even if you just learn a few words, it's a whole new world for you to learn a different language.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, agree. It gives you, opens up your mind, and also it's a great mental exercise. So, and it's something that keeps on going and gets better as you dive in more into the language, or also in the case for you, the language also diving into the traditions. And what you do is of enormous importance, because this link with discovering traditions, or re-elaborate old traditions and making them yours and contemporary, is really what can bridge the past, the present, and the future, because you're creating music that people 20, 30, 50 years, 100 years from now will have access to and definitely appreciate. Well, unfortunately, our time together is up. Il Big Ben ha detto stop. It's time for us to say arrivederci, alla prossima. We want to thank you for tuning in into the program. If you have any questions or comments, or if you have any topics you would like us to address, please contact us at theitalianradiohour@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And remember, if you or any of your family and friends have missed a prior episode or would like to listen to this episode again, please visit our website at www.istitutomonditaliano.org and click on the Italian Radio Hour tab. You can also subscribe to the Italian Radio Hour on YouTube, or where you catch your favorite podcasts. I would like to profusely thank my guest, Michela Musolino. And again, I want you to read it for me. Thank you.
La Notti Triunfanti.
I will never be able to do the TR, Notti Triunfanti is definitely a CD that is going to transport you to not only just the holiday spirit, but the spirit of traditions. I would like to thank our sponsors, Istituto Mondo Italiano, and until next time, alla prossima. Ciao, ciao.
Alla prossima, ciao.